With us now is Sara Kozak, and she likes to be called Kaz, and let's find out why. How are you today?
I'm very well. I am really digging being in Miami after a long, cruel New York winter.
Yes. Not as bad as the blizzards, though, that we've had, right?
Not as bad at all. I mean, actually, I've only snubbed show once, and that took me half an hour, so that's nothing.
I hired people this year because sometimes I don't know. I'm like, I could go out there, but should I go out there? How did you get your nickname?
Well, it was pretty easy, actually. I worked at the BBC for many years, and you cannot imagine how many Sarahs there are working in the media. I reckon if you did a survey, you would find that there are more Sarahs than any other name. So it was really easy. I mean, I like my name anyway. It was great to be Koz. Mm-hmm. People just automatically call me Koz. And also I'm a Gemini, and I mean it's not really something I particularly. I mean, all that stuff is a bit crazy and hokey. But I do believe that Geminis do have a little bit of the dual personality. So I could be Koz at work, and then I could go home and be Sarah in the real normal world. So to this day, my boyfriend of 10 years, he's never called me Koz, ever. But I go to work and I'm Koz. It's great. Duality, see?
Now, yes, the duality is really interesting. I have to ask you, what day is your birthday?
It is the 1st of June.
And my birthday, Miss Koz, is June 3rd. Gemini!
We share so much.
And that is why we decided to do this interview. And Geminis out there, you're going to get it, right? You're going to understand. We know that you will.
Apparently, I believe that more Geminis work in the media because our ruling star or whatever is Mercury, god of communication. So yes. It makes absolute sense.
It does to me as well, and it's a pleasure to meet a fellow Gemini. You started out in the industry doing a variety of things. Can you talk to us about how you started? Because where you are now is pretty grand, but I know you didn't start there. So
I didn't,
okay.
And I'm very proud to have started truly on the bottom rung of the ladder. In fact, I had to kind of climb onto that bottom rung a little bit. I knew I wanted to work in TV and be a TV producer when I was in my teens, which came as a shock to the career guidance people at school, who kind of would push, people like me into something like something vocational, nursing, teaching, whatever. Excuse me. And I went into my interview and I said, I want to be a TV producer. And this chap looked across the table at me and he said, I can't help you. And I said, okay. And that was the end of the interview. I mean, that was it.
Wow.
He offered nothing. So I knew very early on I'd have to do things my own way. I got in on the bottom rung. I wasn't even qualified to make the coffee. Literally, I think my first job was collecting and washing coffee cups. But within 3 months, I'd got another job, and with another 3 months, I'd moved up a rung, tiny rungs. And then I made some big leaps in my early 20s, mostly because I worked tenaciously, because I hadn't got a journalism degree or anything like that. So I had to prove that I could write. That was the first thing. In those days in TV, the very most important thing that you needed was to be able to write. So I started writing. And I started getting work published. And by the time I was 21 or 22, I had a pretty thick binder of published work.
Now, were they short poems? Were they short stories? What types of things were you writing?
No. I was writing mostly about women in sport.
Okay.
I had a weekly column in a magazine, in a newspaper, in Birmingham, with a byline and a photo. And I was like 22,
And what made you start rooting for the Yankees?
Oh, I mean, I started off in my true career really started in sports TV, live news, sports TV, and I actually love the adrenaline and the passion of sport. And also, the great thing about sport and live TV is when the game's over, it's done. You can't go back and have a do-over. It's done. And live TV, that's why I adored live TV in the first. You put so much effort into making your show happen. And you only get that one chance. And your adrenaline is pumping like crazy. And then it's done and it's over. And there's no point having regret and guilt. You learn from all your mistakes, but you can't start sobbing in your coffee and going, oh, God, I made such a mess here. You just have to say, okay, I made a mess. I've learned and I'm going on. But that taught me something. But going back to your question about sport, it really gave me an appreciation for the big game. So when I first came to the States in 2002, it was actually the following summer when a very, very good friend, he's the owner of MPE in New York, Neil Pilzer, fabulous guy. He took me to my first Yankees game. And
peanuts, Cracker Jacks.
And there were amazing seats. And I walked into the old Yankee Stadium and I thought, cathedral of sport. This is... And he was wonderful because he talked to me throughout the whole game in a sense of teaching me about baseball, which I really knew very little about. I was hooked. I was completely and absolutely hooked. And I was at Derek Jeter's last game 2 seasons ago, season and a half ago. And
handsome fellow.
Sorry?
He's a handsome fellow.
He is, yes. But what a player, what a captain, what a leader, and what an example. I mean, I could wax lyrical about Jeter and the Yankees, but that's...
I actually, one of my early jobs in the industry also was working in sports.
Right.
I did the music videos for the Cardinals on the scoreboard. And I got to play with what was called at the time a Quantel paint box.
Yes,
and,
I know. I remember those. Yep.
Okay, and I was the person that got to do like music videos, and I got to do like, the National League score and the American League score and coming up with like some fun graphics, and it was amazing because it had, the Diamond Vision board. It was like a big deal, but I also love sports as well. Then you went on to do some other interesting things like fashion, dress kind of television shows.
Dress and whatnot to wear. I mean, how I fell into that. I mean, for years, in between sport, and I did a lot of adventure sport, extreme sports, kind of forerunners to Survivor and shows like that. And then I worked with the BBC for 12 years, and I had a staff job. I was always thinking, if I don't like the next project they give me, I'll just leave and go freelance. For 12 years, they did nothing but give me great show after great show. But I ended up being a sort of queen of cookery shows. And I did 6 years straight of food shows. And I loved it, and it was great. But I came to a point in early 2002, where I just launched a series called Saturday Kitchen, which was very, very big in the UK. And it was 40 episodes. And I went to see my boss and I said, if I have to read another script about bloody tomatoes and what to do with them in season, I said, I'm going mad. Give me something new. And at that point, I really thought, this might be the point to leave. I've done enough food. So she looked at me and she said, how do you fancy 6 months in New York? I said, that sounds cool. She said, well, look, we have set up a production arm of the BBC in New York, and we're going to make shows for TLC, a network I had never heard of. And we're starting off with What Not to Wear, which was a big show in the UK.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I liked it too.
And of course, at the time in the interview, I said, I love that show, and I never watched it, But I did watch it a lot. I came out to the States in September 2002, and we'd set up this great production arm. We're very independent in New York. And we dived into making the first 10 episodes of the show with American hosts, the wonderful Stacey London. I was there on the night she was auditioned, and I'll never forget her total excitement. She wanted that job so bad. And she was the only person. I mean, there were some great other stylists there, but we all knew that Stacey was going to be the one that got the role.
There's a lot to be said for passion, don't you agree? Like with your team that you have now that you've put together, I think passion and loyalty are everything else I think is teachable almost. Yeah. You can teach somebody to do things, right? Like when you said you kind of got up on the rung, and but I think if you can have passion,
systems, you can learn how to do things. When people start off in production, and I love those people who, like me, were young and getting that first rung. And I said, look, you're going to learn all the entry systems or the databases and all that. You're smart, you'll learn them in a moment. But TV and the process of making TV and making shows, I said, I always say that is something you have to love. You have to talk. When you come in the morning, I don't care what you've been doing the night before, providing at some point you are watching TV. And you come in and you say, I saw this great show. Ideally, of course, it was an ID or an AHC show, but I also want them to be watching TLC and Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, and all the other great cable networks, ours and others, and say, I watched something that was great, or be watching drama, because you'll learn so much from drama. Mm-hmm. If people who come into my office for an interview, if they have watched Breaking Bad and The Wire and Fargo and obviously more recently great drama like The Night Manager and The Crown, and they've got an opinion on it, and they know or they feel that, oh God, that was so good, I want to do that. That's the person who'll get the job,
The people that watch the lighting. Oh, wasn't the lighting great? Or wasn't the camera angle great? Or wasn't the acting fabulous? Or, or the storytelling great? Yeah. A combination of things. And now, where you are now, you're producing so much content. Rapid. Yeah. Thousands of people. Everybody's involved. What is your day like now? What is your experience like?
You'd think it was crazy, because if you look at the bald numbers with the number of hours that we do, the number of incredibly important shows, the number of launches of new series that we do, sometimes you could think it might overwhelm one, but it doesn't. Essentially because we are such a very cohesive team, and my team of 20 on ID, and mostly by one or two people that I have handpicked and worked with and mentored in some way, and they mentor me too over the years. And we're very, very tight. But we're also tight. I mean, there's only about 110 people in all in our entire department working on ID, on AHC, and Destination America. That's not a lot of people. So, and between all of our different departments, between digital and marketing and communications, obviously, we have just developed a shorthand, a way of working, and because we're very collaborative, and because we're incredibly supportive of each other, it makes life a lot easier. There's no infighting, there's no backbiting, and people are so happy and willing to share the glory. When a show does well, it's not just a production success or a development success, it's a success for all of us.
I feel the same way about my team. We call it the Live It Up family.
Yeah.
And I always call it, they'll say, oh, your show. I'm like, no, it's not my show. It's our show. It's our show. Yeah. We take pride in what we do, and it's fun, and we look forward to it every day. And it really makes life enriching. And what are some of the favorite things that you have produced recently? Some of your favorite shows that you've loved? Well,
I'm very, very excited about a new series with Rod Demery. Murder Chose Me. I mean, I just love a great ex-cop who can tell a story intimately about something that he always, of course, starts with a murder, and then they always get their man. KENDA's the same, and it's a thrill ride. It really is, because you get into their minds. They're so great, these cops, at explain. Well, the three that we have, ex-cops on our network, they're just brilliant storytellers, and I love that. I really do. Murder Calls is another favorite. I mean, it's scary. It's scary. It's made me jump out of my seat once or twice. Obviously, I'm thrilled about OJ, which has just ended, our six-parter, last night. That was some terrific storytelling. It's been a hell of a year making that. And I'm particularly excited for Killing Richard Glossip, which comes a little bit later this year. Joe Berlinger has been just an amazing partner. And it's so exciting to work on these miscarriages of justice, you know? I mean, there's no other way to describe it.
And what you're doing is you're shining a light on all of that.
Shining a light, you know, as my boss would say, a very big Klieg light on these, you know, on these stories. And I hope so much. The most important thing about killing Richard Glossip, most important thing, is maybe that somebody watching this, who maybe watched the TCA panel the other day, or heard about it, or read about it, maybe there is somebody out there who knows something about what happened that night, who can help Richard's case. You know, we would love more than anything that Richard, you know, were to be freed. I think it's going to be extraordinarily tough to get that. But it's going to be an amazing series.
And it's nice when you can create content that makes a difference in the community.
You know, you heard about the San Antonio Four. I mean, we got behind this fantastic film, Southwest by Salem. And it was so, that was just a feature doc, one feature doc, wonderful filmmakers. And these 4 women who had been incarcerated, some of them for nearly 20 years, were released and exonerated. I mean, that was a moment of great pride for all of us, really was.
So obviously you're doing much more than you ever set out to do when you talked to that counselor originally that said, I want to be a TV producer, but you want to change the world. I just want to ask one final question. Yes. What are your feelings here about NATPE 17? What does it mean to you to be here and be part of the industry as you are?
You know, I'm honored. It's great in the company of some just terrific heavyweights of TV. And it's a global, wonderful global event. So, and of course, I feel, you know, I'm a European, and I've lived here for all these years. I feel I do understand Europe and its needs, the world's needs. Discovery is a global company. So this is a great place, and there's so much going on, so much. I always have believed, of course, content is king, and we've got amazing content makers here. So, yep.
Thank you. I really thank you for this visit. It was so much fun.
You're welcome.
And every time I have a birthday, I'll be thinking about you, and I'll be like, happy birthday
Vice
to you
versa.
too. Maybe someday we'll have cake together. So stay tuned for more on Live It Up. This was our visit with Sara Kozak.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. What a pleasure.
It was great.
Oh, I so enjoyed it.